Good evening. Federal agents say they've shut down an underground casino hidden behind luxury doors in downtown Los Angeles, a venue that doubled as the hub of a sprawling smuggling network.
Tonight, investigators are cataloging stacks of chips, cash, and records seized from the casino's secret vaults. Authorities allege those...
For 8 months, federal agents had been monitoring a facility that officially operated as a private club in downtown Miami, but was actually a financial hub that fed a criminal network with an annual turnover of more than $400 million. From the outside, the building looked like an exclusive establishment for selected guests, but FBI analysts found anomalies in the money transfers that did not fit any legal business model. Meanwhile, DEA specialists recorded connections between this facility and a series of contraband shipments that were headed through Florida ports to the interior states. When the data from financial monitoring, wiretapping, and physical surveillance came together, investigators obtained court orders and launched a coordinated operation simultaneously in 15 locations. Early in the morning, task forces entered the club's main building, located on the second floor of a commercial building with security and access control systems. Agents moved through the corridors with marked folders and evidence capture equipment, checking every office and VIP area. Teams set up evidence markers at the roulette and poker tables, taking photographs of the layout of chips and documents lying on the surfaces. In parallel, agents searched the second level, where they discovered hidden storage areas behind false wall panels. In one of these compartments, sealed containers with bundles of money were found. In another, electronic media and accounting journals recording transactions outside the official reporting. Meanwhile, another group of investigators descended to the basement level, where the technical rooms and warehouses for servicing the establishment were usually located. However, a detailed inspection revealed an atypical layout. Additional doors, disguised as shelves with supply inventory, led to a separate area with a separate entrance from the service entrance. It was here that the investigators discovered traces of the movement of large consignments of cargo passing through the building without being recorded in the club's internal video surveillance systems. The agents installed markers in the storage areas, photographed the configuration of the premises, and removed containers sealed with special seals for further examination in laboratories. In parallel, investigators searched several private residences linked to the club's management. At one of the mansions on the coast, federal agents found documents confirming financial ties between the casino and a series of offshore companies registered in Panama, the Cayman Islands, and Hong Kong. Accounting records indicated regular transfers through a network of accounts designed to hide the sources of income. The team then proceeds to seize electronics, laptops, tablets, external drives, and phones, which are immediately handed over to digital forensics for analysis of encrypted data. The investigation focused on a woman who investigators identified as the mastermind behind the entire scheme. According to the FBI, she controlled the financial flows between the casinos and outside suppliers, made decisions about the destinations of transfers, and personally managed the logistics chains through Florida ports. Agents determined that this person used several legal companies as fronts to move the funds, which allowed her to remain undetected by regulators for several years. Meanwhile, DEA analysts discovered that some of the money flowing through the casinos was directly linked to smuggling routes connecting the Caribbean with the interior states through a network of intermediaries and transportation companies. Investigators found that the scheme worked on the principle of multi-level distribution of roles. The casino served as a place where money from illegal operations was poured into the flow of legal bets and payouts, after which the funds were transferred to accounts that simulated business transactions. Some of the money came through these in California, indicating the scale of the network, which spanned several states and used convicted. They face 15 to 40 years in federal prison without the right to early release. Investigators emphasized that the charges are based on a combination of evidence collected during 8 months of surveillance, including financial documents, electronic correspondence, witness statements, and physical search materials. FBI officials said the operation demonstrated a new level of sophistication in organized crime schemes that use legal business structures to mask illegal flows. Unlike traditional cartels that rely on violence and direct intimidation, this network operated as a corporation with a clear hierarchy, a division of roles, and automated financial processes. Investigators say it was the combination of legal and illegal elements that allowed the network to operate for several years, avoiding the attention of regulators and law enforcement agencies. In parallel, DEA agents reported that the investigation revealed links to smuggling routes that connected Florida ports with the interior states through a network of intermediaries who used the casino as one of the nodes for moving and legalizing funds. According to investigators, some of the money passing through the club was directly related to operations that ensured the supply of contraband consignments to regions with high demand. Meanwhile, analysts have established that the network used the casino not only for money laundering, but also as a place for meetings between coordinators of different links, which allowed them to discuss logistics and financial issues in a neutral environment under the cover of legal business. The team then proceeds to analyze seized documents that reveal the structure of the financial flows. Investigators found that the money moved through several layers of offshore companies, each of which acted as a buffer between the source of the funds and the final destination. The first layer included companies registered in Panama that received transfers from casinos under the guise of payment for consulting services. The second layer consisted of companies in the Cayman Islands that transferred the funds further under the guise of real estate investments. The third layer included companies in Hong Kong that finally dissolved the traces of the funds in the international financial system through a network of bank accounts and trusts. Investigators found that each offshore company had a minimal footprint in public records using nominee directors and legal addresses, making it difficult to identify the true owners. Meanwhile, analysts found that some of the transfers went through accounts associated with legitimate businesses in the real estate and restaurant business, which made it possible to mix illegal funds with legal income and reduce the risk of detection during audits. In parallel, agents found that the network used fictitious contracts for the supply of casino equipment that were never actually executed, but served as a basis for transferring large sums of money to offshore accounts. According to the FBI, the main coordinator personally controlled the financial flows, making decisions about the timing of transfers, the amounts and directions of the funds. Investigators found that she used several phones and secure messengers to communicate with representatives of offshore companies, transport firms, and coordinators in the field. Analysis of the correspondence revealed that she personally approved each large transaction, checked reports from accountants, and adjusted logistical routes in case of risks identified by law enforcement agencies. Meanwhile, investigators found that she also controlled the recruitment of new members of the network, choosing individuals with experience in the financial sector or logistics who were able to perform complex tasks without attracting undue attention. DEA officials emphasized that this case demonstrates the evolution of organized crime towards the use of legal instruments of the financial system to achieve illegal goals. Unlike classic schemes that rely on cash and physical movement of funds, this network used digital transfers, offshore structures, and automated accounting systems, which made it less vulnerable to traditional investigative methods. Investigators emphasized that detecting and documenting such schemes requires close coordination between financial analysts, digital forensics experts, and operational teams capable of working simultaneously in multiple jurisdictions. The investigation is ongoing, and investigators do not rule out new arrests in the coming weeks. Analysis of the seized data has already indicated possible connections with similar networks in other states, which could lead to the expansion of the case and the involvement of additional federal agencies. Meanwhile, FBI representatives stated that each such strike on organized crime not only stops the flow of illegal funds, but also destroys trust between network participants, forcing them to reconsider their methods of work and reduce activity. Investigators emphasize that the purpose of such operations is not only to arrest specific individuals, but also to systematically weaken the financial and logistical structures that have ensured the functioning of criminal organizations for years. In parallel, federal prosecutors have begun preparing an indictment that should cover all identified episodes of criminal activity over the past 3 years. According to preliminary estimates, the document will include more than 200 pages of facts, supported by financial reports, correspondence records, witness statements, and expert opinions. Investigators have established that the network began to take shape in 2021, when the main coordinator acquired a controlling stake in the casino through an offshore company registered as a nominee director. Over the following months, she gradually replaced key managers with individuals loyal to the new structure and introduced a parallel accounting system that was not reflected in official reporting. Meanwhile, FBI analysts discovered that some of the money laundered through the casinos was used to finance other illegal operations, including the purchase of real estate for subsequent resale with the provision of fictitious loans and the creation of a network of consulting firms that provided services to other criminal groups. Investigators found that this diversification allowed the network not only to launder its own funds, but also to earn money by providing similar services to external clients, which increased the total turnover to a level comparable to medium-sized corporations in the legal sector. According to the DEA, it was this business model that made the network particularly resistant to law enforcement strikes, since the loss of one direction did not lead to the collapse of the entire structure. The team then moved on to examine the network's international connections. Digital forensics found that the coordinator maintained regular contact with representatives of financial companies in Switzerland, Singapore, and the United Arab Emirates that provided asset management services and created complex offshore structures. The correspondence indicated that some of the funds were withdrawn through cryptocurrency exchanges, where the money was converted into digital assets, transferred through a network of anonymous wallets, and converted back into fiat currencies in accounts in different jurisdictions. Investigators determined that such operations allowed the network to evade scrutiny by banking regulators because the transactions took place outside the traditional financial system and left no obvious traces in bank records. In parallel, agents discovered that the network used the casino as a meeting place for representatives of various criminal groups who exchanged experience, established contacts, and coordinated joint operations. According to wiretaps, informal meetings were regularly held in the club's VIP rooms, during which issues of logistics, distribution of territories, and methods of avoiding the attention of law enforcement agencies were discussed. Investigators found that the coordinator personally participated in such meetings, acting as a mediator between different groups and helping them to coordinate interests without conflicts. Meanwhile, analysts found that it was this role that made her one of the most influential figures in the regional criminal ecosystem, since she controlled not only her own network, but also had leverage over the activities of other organizations. According to preliminary estimates, the arrest of the coordinator and key members of the network will lead to temporary chaos in the regional criminal structure, as many groups will lose access to money laundering services and logistics coordination. Investigators expect that in the coming months, competitors will try to occupy the vacated niche, which may lead to increased conflict between groups and create additional opportunities for law enforcement agencies. Meanwhile, FBI representatives emphasized that the success of this operation was possible thanks to close coordination between various agencies, including the DEA, the Internal Revenue Service, Customs and Border Protection, and partners in the banking sector who provided access to financial data as part of the investigation. In parallel, investigators have begun the process of confiscating assets related to the network's activities. According to preliminary estimates, the total value of the assets subject to confiscation exceeds $120 million, including real estate, bank accounts, corporate shares, and luxury items. Federal prosecutors have already filed a motion with the court to seize these assets until the end of the trial, arguing that it is necessary to prevent their movement or sale. Meanwhile, analysts have found that some of the assets are registered to nominal owners or are hidden through complex corporate structures, which will require additional investigations to establish actual control and ownership. DEA officials said the case would set a precedent in the fight against a new type of organized crime that uses legal business tools to achieve illegal goals. Unlike traditional cartels that rely on violence and territorial control, the new networks operate like corporations, using lawyers, accountants, financial consultants, and IT specialists to build complex schemes that are difficult to detect and investigate. Investigators emphasize that combating such structures requires not only traditional operational measures, but also a deep understanding of financial mechanisms, international law, and digital technologies. Meanwhile, digital forensics teams continue to analyze the seized data, uncovering new connections and episodes of criminal activity. According to preliminary estimates, a full analysis could take several months, as the volume of information requires careful review and cross-checking with other sources. Investigators have determined that some of the data was encrypted using military standards, requiring the involvement of cryptographers to decrypt it. In parallel, agents are working to recover deleted files from damaged media that were partially destroyed by network members during arrests. Federal prosecutors expect the trial to begin within the next 3 months, after all necessary expert examinations are completed and a final indictment is drawn up. According to preliminary estimates, the trial will last from 6 months to a year, depending on the number of defendants who agree to a plea deal with the investigation. Investigators expect that some of the detainees will testify against the coordinator in exchange for reduced sentences, which will allow them to strengthen the indictment and obtain additional information about the network's international connections. FBI officials say the operation demonstrates the effectiveness of interagency coordination and the importance of long-term investigations that allow for a comprehensive evidence base to be collected before arrests can be made. Investigators stress that hasty action could result in the loss of key evidence and allow some of the network's members to escape responsibility. Meanwhile, analysts have already begun work to identify similar schemes in other regions, using data obtained during this investigation as the basis for new cases. The investigation is ongoing, and law enforcement remains vigilant for any attempts to revive the network or create similar structures in the future. The Internal Revenue Service said the financial audit uncovered numerous tax violations, including failure to report income from illegal activities and the use of fictitious expenses to reduce the tax liabilities of legitimate companies linked to the network. Preliminary estimates put the total unpaid taxes at more than $30 million, adding to the charges separate to tax crimes. Investigators say financial violations are often the most reliable evidence in cases against organized crime groups, as tax records are difficult to destroy or falsify completely. Meanwhile, Customs and Border Protection has begun reviewing all shipments that have passed through Florida ports in the past 3 years and were linked to the companies involved in the investigation. According to preliminary data, investigators have identified more than 50 suspicious shipments that were officially declared as entertainment equipment, furniture, or construction materials, but had anomalies in weight, dimensions, or delivery routes. Analysts are working to establish the true contents of these shipments and identify the individuals responsible for their organization. In parallel, agents are checking possible links to other criminal networks